Hello, welcome to Live Parkinson's, Live an Exceptional Life, the podcast dedicated to empowering you to live your best life with Parkinson's. I'm your host, Chris Custenbauer, and I've been living an exceptional life with Parkinson's for 15 years. Today, we're diving into a topic that is gaining significant attention in the Parkinson's community: the profound connection between what you eat and your brain's most vital chemical messenger, dopamine. You know, for so long, the conversation around Parkinson's is focused heavily on medication to replace dopamine, and rightfully so. While the medications are absolutely crucial, what if I told you that your daily food choices could also play a significant role in influencing your body's natural ability to manage dopamine, support your brain health, and even impact the effectiveness of your medications? We're not talking about a cure, but rather a powerful tool in your arsenal to live a more exceptional life with Parkinson's. Today, we'll explore the fascinating science behind how diet can impact dopamine production and function, and I'll share actionable strategies that you can implement right away. So get ready to rethink your plate. So before we jump in with both feet, let's look at what we're covering in today's podcast. In segment 1, we'll look at the dopamine story in Parkinson's and provide a quick overview. In segment 2, we'll look at the foods that support dopamine pathways. Then it's on to the gut-brain axis, which I've discussed in another podcast. It's your second brain, and we'll explore dopamine's role. Then we'll transition to an important piece, navigating protein and levodopa, and discuss how protein can interfere with your medication. And then we'll move into foods to be mindful of and identify how certain foods can impact your symptoms. Then we'll provide some practical tips for integrating diet into your PD management program. And then we'll finish it out with the power of protective nutrition. So if you're ready to learn more about dopamine and diet and how food choices can influence neurotransmitter production in Parkinson's, then let's get started. Let's start with the basics. Now, as many of you know, Parkinson's disease is characterized by the degeneration of dopamine-producing neurons, or brain cells, in a specific area of the brain called the substantia nigra. Now, dopamine is a neurotransmitter that plays a crucial role in our motor control, motivation, reward, and even our mood. So, when these neurons or brain cells die, dopamine levels are going to drop, leading to the motor symptoms that we associate with Parkinson's, like tremor, rigidity, and slowness of movement. Now, traditional treatment primarily focuses on replacing the dopamine that we're losing, as is in the case of levodopa, which of course is still the gold standard medication, or in mimicking the effects of dopamine as with dopamine agonists. But our bodies are more complex, and the pathways that influence dopamine aren't just limited to our brain's internal production. What we consume, absorb, and process through our digestive system has a direct line to our nervous system. Now, speaking from personal experience, I know I feel a lot better and I move better when I eat healthier. I know when I eat too much sugary foods or a lot of processed snacks, I feel more sluggish and slightly out of sorts. And sometimes it takes me longer to get moving. So I've tried to be a little bit more conscious about what I'm eating. All right, so then let's look at foods that support dopamine pathways. So this then begs the question, how can our diet influence dopamine? Well, it begins with the basic building blocks. Dopamine is synthesized or made from an amino acid called L-tyrosine. Okay, you may be asking, well, that's great, Chris, but what's an amino acid? And L-tyrosine, that sounds like something that you use to clean old greasy parts. Someone might say, yeah, can you toss me the L-tyrosine? This grease isn't it's not coming off this piece of machinery. Now, they sound super scientific, but really it's pretty simple when you think about it. So imagine you're making a building with Legos. You have all the different Lego bricks in front of you. Maybe some of them are long, some are square, some have bumps, and some are flat. Now, each of these Lego bricks is like an amino acid. So when you connect a whole bunch of these Legos and put them together in a specific order, in a specific way, what do you make? Well, it depends on what you're building. So you could be making a house, a spaceship, or a car with your Lego blocks, right? Well, in our bodies, when we link together a whole bunch of these amino acids, and if you think Lego bricks, in specific sequences, we build proteins. And what are proteins? Well, they're the superstars of our body. They're like the workhorses. Your muscles are made of protein. Your hair and nails, yep, you guessed it, protein. These little workers that help you digest your food, those are special proteins called enzymes. Even the things that help your body fight infection and sickness, proteins. So, in a nutshell, amino acids are the tiny individual building blocks that are going to link together to create all the different proteins in your body. Now, some of these special amino acids and bricks like L-tyrosine that I mentioned are also the starting material for making important brain chemicals like our friend dopamine. So when we talk about eating protein-rich foods, what we're really doing is giving our body a fresh supply of those essential amino acids or Lego bricks that it needs to build and repair everything and even make crucial neurotransmitters for our brain health. Pretty cool, right? So let's go back and tie this all together then. So dopamine is synthesized from an amino acid called L-tyrosine. And then L-tyrosine then in turn comes from another amino acid called phenylalanine. So consuming foods rich in these amino acids is a good starting point. Think about protein-rich foods. And what are they? Well, they include things like lean meats like chicken and turkey, fish, especially fatty fish rich in omega-3s like salmon and sardines, eggs, dairy products like milk and yogurt, legumes and beans, nuts and seeds like peanuts, almonds, and walnuts. Now, beyond direct precursors or building blocks, other nutrients also play vital roles as co-contributors or factors in helping to produce dopamine and overall brain health. So let's look at some of the micronutrients that are co-contributors. And we'll lead it off with the B vitamins, especially vitamins B6, B9, also known as folate, and B12. Now, these are essential for a number of enzyme reactions in the body, including those involved in dopamine production. You can find B6 in bananas, green leafy vegetables, and chicken. Folate in leafy greens and fortified cereals, and then B12 in animal products and fortified foods. Now, in 2024, there was a review called Best Vitamins for Parkinson's Disease that was published in verywellhealth.com, and it highlighted that lower levels of B12 and folate were found in patients with early onset Parkinson's. And that a meta-analysis showed a correlation between cognitive dysfunction and lower levels of these vitamins. Now, next up in terms of important micronutrients are antioxidants. And a few that we're going to mention are vitamin C and vitamin E. Now, these powerful compounds help protect our brain cells from oxidative stress, and that's believed to contribute to neurodegeneration and Parkinson's. So, don't be bashful. Load up on colorful fruits and vegetables like berries, citrus, leafy greens, and nuts and seeds. They'll give you the vitamins C and E that you need. Now, also in the same Very Well Health article, Best Vitamins for Parkinson's Disease, they cite an 18-year study in Sweden, which found that a higher intake of both vitamin C and vitamin E was associated with a 32% lower risk of Parkinson's. So there is some science to say that if you eat your fruits and veggies, that it's going to help provide a potential benefit. And that's always the key word, potential. And then finally, omega-3 fatty acids, which are found in fatty fish like salmon, sardines, and mackerel, flax seeds, and chia seeds. Now, these healthy fats are known for their anti-inflammatory properties, and they may help support the health of dopamine-producing neurons in the brain. All right, now that was a quick look at foods that help support the dopamine pathway. Now let's look at the gut-brain axis. Now, I've talked about this in another podcast, but if you're not familiar with the gut-brain axis, it may sound like something out of science fiction. But it's something that's actually happening inside you right now, and it's incredibly important for Parkinson's. Imagine your gut. That's your intestines, your stomach, your whole digestive system, and your brain are constantly talking to each other. Of course, not with words, of course, but through a superhighway of nerves, hormones, and even chemicals produced by these tiny little living things that live inside your gut. Think of it like this. Your gut and brain are like two best friends who have a direct phone line and are always chatting and sharing information back and forth. So your brain may say to your gut, when you're stressed or anxious, your brain sends signals down to your gut, which is why you might feel butterflies in your stomach or even get an upset stomach when you're nervous. But then in turn, your gut may communicate with your brain. And here's the really interesting part, especially for Parkinson's. Your gut also sends signals to your brain. So how does it do this? Through the vagus nerve. There's a big long nerve called the vagus nerve that runs directly from your brainstem all the way down to your gut. It's like the main fiber optic cable connecting the two. Now, let's look at the second part of how the gut talks to the brain, and that's through gut bugs or the microbiome, what they call microbiome. Now, inside your gut, you have trillions, yes, I said trillions, of these little bacteria, viruses, and fungi living in there. Now, we call this community your gut microbiome. And these little critters in your gut aren't just sitting there, they're busy getting their jobs done. They help you digest your food, but they also produce their own chemicals and even some neurotransmitters, which can travel through your bloodstream and signal to the vagus nerve and send messages up to your brain. So, why is all this gut-brain axis talk important for Parkinson's? Well, that's a great question. In the area of Parkinson's, more and more research is suggesting that for many people with Parkinson's, gut issues like constipation often appear years before motor symptoms. So this hints at something that might be going wrong in the gut early on. And then second, those little gut bugs can influence how well your body makes or uses certain brain chemicals, including dopamine. And some of them can interfere with your Parkinson's medications, like levodopa, and get absorbed and cause an unhealthy balance of gut bacteria, and that can lead to inflammation. And they might even play a role in how those problematic Parkinson's proteins, like alpha-synuclein, start to clump together, possibly even starting in the gut and traveling up to the brain. So when we talk about the gut-brain axis, what we're really talking about is this incredible two-way conversation system. It highlights why taking care of your gut health through the diet with fiber-rich foods, pre and probiotics, isn't just good for digestion, but it's also a powerful way to support your brain and potentially influence your Parkinson's journey. So it's all connected. Just to close out this with some scientific research to support the gut microbiome, there was a large study that was published in Nature Communication in 2023 entitled Research into Bacteria in the Gut Reveals How They Potentially Cause and Affect Progression of Parkinson's. And that was published in parkinsonsuk.org. And it's revealing significant differences in the gut microbiome of people with Parkinson's compared to healthy individuals. And then the imbalance is known as dysbiosis, and it can have profound implications on dopamine. Right, now let's turn our attention to one of the most common and often confusing dietary considerations for people with Parkinson's, especially those on levodopa, and that's the interaction with protein. So what's the concern? Why are we concerned that we're taking levodopa and eating a lot of protein? Well, levodopa and dietary proteins use the same transport pathways to get absorbed from your gut into your bloodstream and then across the blood-brain barrier. So if you eat a high-protein meal shortly before or with your levodopa medication, the amino acids from the protein can compete with levodopa for absorption, potentially reducing the medication's effectiveness and leading to off periods or unpredictable motor fluctuations. So, how can you manage your medications while still getting the protein your bodies need? First is timing. Many people with Parkinson's find it beneficial to take their levodopa medication at least 30 to 60 minutes before a protein-rich meal. This gives the levodopa a head start to begin working. Second, some people have success with what they call a protein redistribution diet. And that just simply means that you eat the majority of your daily protein in the evening when the motor fluctuations might not be as critical as it would be during the day when you're trying to do a lot more of your activities. So their earlier meals, they tend to eat later amounts of protein. And then finally, it's important not to cut out protein because protein is essential for our muscle health and fighting infections and just our overall well-being. So talk to your doctor or healthcare professional about if you're taking levodopa, what they suggest in terms of when you should take your medication and when you should consume the most protein. Your doctor is going to give you the guidance that you need based on your specific individual needs. Now, following in the same vein as watch-outs for protein, now let's look at some of the foods to be mindful of. So just as some foods support dopamine and brain health, others might have a less favorable impact. So let's take a look at some of these foods. And let's start it off with ultra-processed foods. And I think we're all pretty familiar with those. Ultra-processed foods are the ones that for instance, they take a lot of the bran and fiber out of. So white breads and things with a lot of sugar and fats. So a study called Ultra-Processed Foods May Accelerate Parkinson's Brain Changes was published in Neurology in May 2025. And it indicated an association between high consumption of ultra-processed foods like sugary drinks, packaged snacks, and processed meats, and a higher likelihood of showing early signs of Parkinson's. Now, while this study shows an association, not a causation, it strengthens the growing evidence that these foods may be detrimental to our brain health overall. Now, these foods are often low in nutrients and high in unhealthy fats, sugar, and artificial additives that can contribute to inflammation and gut dysbiosis. All right, next up is excessive saturated and trans fats. So high intake of saturated fats may increase inflammation, which is a concern in Parkinson's. So we want to limit foods like red meat, butter, cheese, and fried items, and focus on healthy fats like those found in olive oil, avocado, and nuts. Next up is sugar. While not directly impacting dopamine levels in the same way protein does, high sugar intake can lead to blood sugar spikes and crashes, potentially affecting energy levels, your mood, and your overall neurological function. And then finally, alcohol and caffeine. Now, especially before bedtime. While moderate consumption might be fine for some, excessive alcohol can interfere with medications and your sleep. And caffeine too close to bedtime can worsen sleep issues. So you want to keep those in mind. Okay, we've looked at the dopamine story in Parkinson's. We've looked at foods that support dopamine pathways, the gut-brain axis, some tips for navigating protein and levodopa, and foods to be mindful of. Now let's turn our attention to practical tips for integrating diet into your Parkinson's management program. So, how do we put together everything that we talked about into practice? Well, here are some actionable tips. Number 1, prioritize whole foods. Build your plate around fruits and vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, and healthy fats. Think colorful, fresh, and unprocessed. Try to eat as many whole foods as you can. Number 2, hydration is key. Drink plenty of water throughout the day. Dehydration can worsen symptoms like fatigue and confusion, and even impact medication absorption. So make sure that you're always drinking throughout the day to stay hydrated, because when you feel thirsty, you're already starting to become dehydrated. Number 3, meal timing. If you're on levodopa, experiment with timing your protein intake around your medication doses. And discuss this with your healthcare team again. When's the best time to take your medication if I'm going to eat a protein-heavy meal? Number 4, listen to your body. Everyone's Parkinson's journey is unique, so pay attention to how different foods affect your symptoms and your energy levels. Keep a food journal. I know it helps me, and it may seem like something tedious, but you'd be surprised at how you can track, oh, if I eat certain foods, then my symptoms seem worse. So it's a good idea if you have the time to track what you're eating. Number 5, small, frequent meals. So for some, smaller, more frequent meals can help you manage your energy levels and avoid overwhelming the digestive system, especially if you have problems with nausea or early satiety or fullness. Number 6, address constipation. And you can do this through a fiber-rich diet and adequate hydration. They're both crucial for managing constipation, which can significantly impact your medication's effectiveness. And number 7, consult a professional. Always consult with your neurologist and or registered dietitian specializing in Parkinson's disease before making any significant dietary changes. They can provide personalized guidance and ensure you're meeting your nutritional needs. Now, the exciting takeaway from all this is the power that you have in your own hands. Now, while diet isn't a cure for Parkinson's, it's a powerful and often underestimated tool for managing your symptoms, supporting your brain health, and potentially influencing the progression of the disease. So, consider the holistic picture. When you nourish your body with wholesome foods, you're not just feeding your cells, you're supporting your gut microbiome, you're helping to reduce inflammation, and you're providing yourself with essential building blocks for neurotransmitters and potentially enhancing the effectiveness of medications. Now, this proactive approach to nutrition empowers you to take an active role in living an exceptional life with Parkinson's. It's about making conscious choices one meal at a time. And that's going to help support your brain and your body in the best way possible. Now, just remember, every small step towards a healthier eating is a victory. So it's always the same with everything. Always start out slow and then build into it. So as we wrap up today's episode, I want to emphasize that understanding the intricate relationship between dopamine and diet is a journey and not a destination. So continue to learn, experiment, and most importantly, listen to your body and work closely with your healthcare team. Now, for more valuable resources and support on living an exceptional life with Parkinson's, please visit my website, liveparkinsons.com. There you'll find information, resources, tools, and articles to empower you on your Parkinson's journey. Now, don't miss out on my free monthly newsletter that's packed with the latest insights, tips, and inspiring stories. And you can subscribe directly on the website, liveparkinsons.com. And also, you can get additional valuable resources like my Parkinson's symptom tracker and medication tracker, as well as 9 balance exercises to help you improve your balance with Parkinson's. Now, if you find the podcast helpful and the resources I provide helpful and wish to support my mission to empower people to live a great quality life with Parkinson's, please consider contributing to my Ko-fi page at kofi.com/liveparkinsons. Your generous support helps me to continue to produce high-quality content and expand my reach to help others. So thanks again for listening. Stay healthy, stay strong, and remember to live your best life with Parkinson's. I hope to see you soon. Thanks.